Now give me 12 minutes and I'll show you exactly how to scale faster than 97% of businesses. I've built companies from scratch to 7 figures, sold out one actually before I turned 25, and today I run multiple businesses while actually working 4 hours a day. Now most founders stay stuck, grinding in circles, burning out, and never breaking through. Meanwhile, a small group of founders are actually making millions of dollars while actually working less than, let's say, a 9 to 5 and having less stress than a 9 to 5. Now the difference is not luck, it's not IQ, it's not hustle. It's just 5 simple rules of exit operators. And if you master these, you actually build a business that compounds while everyone else is still grinding. So let's start here with rule number 1. Now rule number 1 here is the 95-5 rule. 95% of your success actually happens in the shadow, while 5% you actually see online, like the villas, the launches, the exits. That's just like the highlight reel. Now the real game is actually doing the boring basics for an extraordinary amount of time. Like you see right here, it's almost like an iceberg in the ocean. The visible success is just the tip of the iceberg. Everything underneath that is daily sales calls, sometimes making like 50 calls a day to basically get to a certain point where you can remove yourself more. Consistent content, so publishing content twice a week is also not easy. Founder KPI tracking, so monitoring key performance indicators regularly of your team, and avoiding boredom at the same time, which is resisting the urge to basically quit the basics and getting shiny object syndrome. All of this is why there's visible success, achieved through consistent effort. This can be boring. It can be repetitive. That's why most people quit, or why their businesses start failing, is because they get shiny object syndrome. And that's exactly why you will win, because you don't get bored with the basics. Think of it, for example, like Kobe Bryant, RIP Kobe Bryant, by the way. At the Olympics, he actually showed up at 4 a.m., not to try some new trick shot, but to practice his footwork, which he's done a million times already. The same drills that he's been doing since high school, actually. Why? Because greatness comes from refusing to get bored with the fundamentals, which you can see here as well, some pictures of him training and working out. Now again, business is no different. It's a sport. One founder that actually coached built his agency to $300K a month, not by chasing AI hacks or exotic funnels, but by mastering basically one offer, one sales script, and one weekly reporting system. 95% of the work was invisible. The 5% you actually see, the money, the lifestyle, the recognition, was just a service. It's the same shit with like social media, right? As you're scrolling, see all these success stories and you start comparing yourself. But really the thing is that you just have to put in the work and look behind the curtains what they're doing. So ask yourself, what's the boring basics that you've been avoiding? Because if you want compounding results, this is where it starts. But what happens even if the basics, let's say, feel unbearable, right? That's where actually rule number 2 comes in to help you with this, which is discomfort is bigger than regret every single time. Most people don't change until the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change. For example, I had a tutoring job with a fat salary, prestige, I was young, and all the things that actually look good on paper. But every morning when I walked in, I got suffocated by the environment, right? Actually, that needs to be in red. Now, the breaking point is that my manager was mapping out my next 5 years with a big smile. The promotions, the benefits, the dream path, even like a retirement plan, even though I was young as hell. And all I felt was just a dread, right? As you can see here, some pictures of basically me being in a classroom, etc. So I quit, even though my boss tried to give me like bonuses and extra perks, such as a 30% increase and more responsibility in what I can do. I still left. And the first months running my own business, it was super hard. It was not easy at all. It was brutal. I made mistakes, sleepless nights, stress. But even then, my worst day as a founder felt lighter than the thought of 40 years in a job that I hated. Here's just a picture of me grinding in my early days. I had much longer hair. I was a lot younger here as well. And this is at my parents' house. I looked kind of like tired, but it was all worth it, right? Because that's the cost of regret. And it's always higher than the cost of discomfort. If you think about the price of success is too high, wait until you get the bill for regret. So here's your exercise and what I used to do. Project forward 1 year. If you keep postponing, like where will you be? Same money, same routine, same excuses. Now project forward 5 years. How heavy does that feel if you're still in the same spot? That discomfort that you feel right now, good. Use it because time will pass anyway. The only question is, where will you be when it does? But a lot of times what I've seen is like discomfort alone isn't enough. Like I'm lazy, a lot of other people are lazy too. The next step is mental. That's where rule number 3 kind of comes in. By the way, real quick, if you're serious about scaling and want direct help, applying these rules inside your business, I've opened up actually a few slots on the calendar just with me. We've already helped hundreds of founders escape burnout and scale fast. So I'll just drop the details in the link. Now let's talk about rule number 3, which is reprogramming your beliefs. Now most founders lose before they even start because they're running the wrong softwares inside their head. It's actually called the Pygmalion effect, which is that you perform up to your expectations. If you believe scaling is out of reach, your brain will hunt for proof that you're right. For example, my city is too small, my niche is too competitive, there's not enough people in my niche, I'm too late in this niche, too late into this opportunity. And the moment that you actually believe those stories, you stop playing to win, right? Because that you're basically making that your reality at this point. But when you actually flip the script, when you believe it's possible, your brain starts working to actually prove that it's right instead. And here's how it goes. It's like a growing organism. So you start off with having limited beliefs, so doubting scaling potential. Then you start reframing those questions, so shifting from why not to what if. So for example, I can't do this because the niche is too small, to let me look for other proof. What if there's other proof of people actually doing this? Which is the next step. And then you want to act like an owner. Hire, delegate, and productize the things that you don't like to do, or the things that are holding you back from scaling up, which flows right into scaling mindset, believing in scaling potential. Now, I've seen founders go from 20K to 80K months simply because they stopped seeing themselves as freelancers and actually started acting like owners. They hired, delegated, productized with the same skill, same market, but different belief system. Because at the end of the day, like you see in a lot of these courses, it's a lot of mindset stuff. And there's a reason for it, because that's a big thing, and your mindset is your multiplier. You either upgrade it and everything else compounds. So here's the reframe. Stop the focus on obstacles and actually start to see proof of scalability. Instead of saying like, hey, why can't I scale? This leads to just identifying limitations and potential roadblocks. Now, instead, you should be asking like, hey, what proof can I find that I can actually do it? Maybe by having a mentor that has actually already done that, which encourages finding evidence of potential success. Because again, the world is full of examples of people with fewer resources, less time, and less talent who still made it. Your brain just needs permission to notice them. I had a lot of friends in high school. They were super rich. And honestly, sometimes I was like, how the fuck did you make so much money? It's just because they were simply focusing on these principles. And a lot of times they found the proof that they can actually do it through a mentor. But belief alone won't really buy back your time. And that's exactly where rule number 4 comes in, which is one in, one out. Every task that you keep on your plate costs you twice, once in time and once in missed opportunity. So let's say you make 100K a year. Your time is worth about, let's say, $50 an hour. Spend 5 hours fiddling with a logo and you maybe save, let's say, $200, but you lost $250 in opportunity because you basically calculated how much you get paid by hour, and it's more. That leads to a net loss. Now, your default instead should be 1, automate. Identify the task for automation. 2 is delegate, assign to others, and 3 is just eliminate. Remove any unnecessary tasks, right? So if you have a task that is just unnecessary in the first place, of course, delete it first, and everything else you have left over, try to delegate as much as you can. Now, I run a simple filter. If the task isn't worth at least $500 to $1,000 an hour to me, I honestly shouldn't be doing this at the point of my career. AI makes this easier than ever. Like, I use tools like Claude, Notion, AI, or even ChatGPT to handle all of this. It knows everything about my business, how I do it, how I handle stuff. And if I feel like, should I be doing this task or not, I just asked it, because at this point, it knows so much more about me, about all the data calls and everything else, that it is actually giving me really, really good advice. Now, combining this with a virtual assistant, and suddenly you've bought back 10 to 20 hours a week. Another founder that I actually worked with was drowning in admin, and we calculated the value of her time at $75 an hour. She was spending 12 hours a week on a task that was worth like $15 an hour, right? Imagine that. It was like a setting process and creating some like creatives for ads. Now, after delegating and automating, she freed up 12 hours, 12 times 75. You can imagine how much money that is. It's like an iPhone, basically, right? And reinvesting that into sales calls. And the sales calls, she noticed that she was almost making $500 to $1,000 an hour of the sales calls that she was showing up to on average, with the closing rates and everything. And within 90 days, her revenue actually doubled. So the lesson is, stop saving pennies, start buying back your hours, because those hours compound into growth, and the hours you lose, you can never buy back or get back, because it happened in the past, of course. But even with time bought back, right, by outsourcing it for the future, you'll still stall if you actually stay in low accountability work. And that's kind of like where rule 5 actually matters, which is moving to high accountability. Scaling isn't about doing more. It's about doing the work that few people actually can. There's 2 types of accountabilities. One is low accountability. So that's tasks that literally everyone can do. And then there's high accountability. That's work that only you can do. And you have to differentiate these two. And here's the model that I typically use, which is called a T-shaped operator. There's a vertical vertical bar, which is your specialty. So like, let's say like sales, design, or ops, I would typically just focus on sales. And there's a horizontal bar, which is layered skills across domains like marketing, data, leadership, etc. Now, when you combine skills, you become irreplaceable. A hybrid operator grows faster, earns more, and scales smoother. For example, if you have certain team members that can do marketing, but also do the data and leadership, now you basically combine a lot of them. Now you're more like an exit operator because you've also now created yourself a more lean team, especially if you have a good offer. Of course, it depends on that. It's hands off. Now think of it like a fighter, and let's say like a video game. The more combos that you actually unlock, the harder you are to beat. It's the same with business. The more skill combos you stack, the harder you are to replace and the more leverage you can actually create. So ask yourself, what's the vertical and what are 2 to 3 horizontals that will make you dangerous? Because the moment you move into high accountability, you stop being replaceable labor and start being an asset that no one actually can ignore. Most businesses actually never hit escape velocity. And that's not just because the founders aren't smart, but it's because they never leave the 5%. They're chasing shiny objects and new opportunities. They're stuck in low value work like doing designs of like ads, calling clients and all this shit. And they're afraid to demand more of themselves. But you're different. You know the 5 rules, which is high accountability, buying back time, reprogramming your beliefs, embracing discomfort, and mastering the basics. Honestly, you want to go start from the bottom and then up, but you get the point. So do this and you'll scale faster than 97% of the business out there. I can almost guarantee you that because a lot of people overlook this kind of stuff while actually working fewer hours and living with peace. Now, that's it. If this resonated, don't stop here. I actually recorded another training where I break down the exact systems I use to scale to 80K a month profit while only working just 4 hours a day. I'll just put the video somewhere here on the screen to watch that next, and it will basically give you the full roadmap because burnout isn't a sign to quit. It's just feedback. Feedback that it's time to rebuild, systematize, and scale. See you in the next one, and welcome to the Exit Operator era. Peace.